Hey guys, in between watching episodes of Z Nation, which I'm currently watching for the second time over since it first came out, I decided to start the series over again. Anyway, I digress. But in between watching episodes that are more tedious, I look up Facebook posts on different stock sites on groups that I'm a member of. This person had a question. He goes, "Hey folks, which tools do you use to investigate a stock and deciding if to invest in it or not? Which indicators do you look at? How do you follow news about that stock?" And anyway, I'll get to my answer here. Basically, one of the main things I use when I'm studying anything, and I'm mainly a dividend chaser, basically, right? I'll use Stock Analysis app. I'm a subscriber, and it's really efficient for finding out dividend history, dividend growth, total return status for any length of time and price return and stuff like that, including the holdings. And then it'll have links to the fund manager, so you could directly link to their website too and look at their synopsis and everything on their holdings, right? But in addition to that, I've been trading the same stuff for years, and I used to chase a lot of high beta stuff, and some of that included a lot of cryptocurrency stuff. Actually, not crypto itself, but Bitcoin miners. I use them as a proxy for Bitcoin, and I've been doing that for a couple of years. And there's still a window of opportunity to use the Bitcoin miners in that way during pullbacks in Bitcoin. You can use anything you want as a proxy. Also have shares of blocks, BLOX blocks from X funds that I'll swing trade, or during significant pullbacks in Bitcoin, I start dollar cost averaging, and then on the pumps, I'll look at the chart on Bitcoin. If it's topping out, then I'll sell out of it and I'll wait for a pullback and get back in. I just recently picked up another 90 shares on it after selling out at a profit before, so. And I've got some shares of BTCI from Neil's funds also. And I've traded options on that by selling covered calls because I see bearish activity on the chart for Bitcoin. So I sold a covered call on that. And I'm waiting for, really, I'm actually targeting between 60 and 70,000 on Bitcoin before I go more aggressive with selling additional puts out of the money on BTCI, which is got some liquidity in options actually. But anyway, so getting back to the point, I don't use leverage and I don't day trade. I tried day trading. I've done some leverage and never did more than break even, so I gave it up. I'm more of a trader that goes after things he wants to own, or I trade stuff I've been trading for years that turned out to be really profitable, like I said with the Bitcoin miners. But after knowing what the catalyst is for Bitcoin, looking at the chart, looking at what's going on as far as tailwinds or headwinds. And so during 2023, we're going into 2024 for the halving. I knew at that point that Bitcoin was likely to really make new highs. So I started buying a lot of Bitcoin proxies, trading options on them, stuff like that. And my gain on that year was 50% going from 2023 to the midpoint to about 2024 in that 1 year time frame. So like I said, I use Stock Analysis app. I also use Gemini, right? I'll just ask Gemini any question that I want, like X dividend dates. I'll tell it to do an analysis on something, and it works pretty good actually. I mean, you ask Gemini anything, you speak to it, or even live conversate. But if I want to know about something like Bitcoin, I could ask just simply Bitcoin analysis, and it's going to give you a synopsis on what it sees on the charts or whatever. Let's see what it says. So it's telling what the current price level is. Bitcoin hit a new low today for 2026, following a broader sell-off in the tech stocks, and it shows you where the support is. Immediate support around 79 to 80K. That's considered the correction bottom. Immediate resistance 89 to 91. So it gives you kind of a basic breakdown of what's going on with Bitcoin, even on a macro level. So I use that. Then if I'm asking, like, for example, like ADX is a closed-end fund I like that has been around a long time. So I ask it about the particular fund I'm interested in. I just say ADX analysis, and it'll tell you different things about that particular stock or equity that you're looking up. And it's pretty interesting. Like, you could ask for dividend history, anything you want. And sometimes it hallucinates. Like I said in the comments earlier, if you read the comments, I was talking about hallucinations. Gemini makes shit up sometimes, so you got to kind of cross reference it. So I might look up stuff on Gemini, right? But what I'll do is I'll fact check it. I'll go to stock analysis and I'll just type in stuff on there that I'm interested in, and I'll look up its history, like ADX. This first chart, you go out in the max time frame, you can see the price action. This is the old price action over the max time frame, 5 year, 1 year, year to date, 1 month, 5 day, and 1 day. Then if you scroll down, you can hit the compare button, and you could select a total return chart, and you can see what your total return on it on the max time frame, 10 year, 5 year, 3 year, 1 year, etc. And you'll see whatever the fund you're interested in, you'll see what the total return has been. And ADX, as you can see, has done really well. You can also click on that total return percentage, and you can change it to price change percentage, return percentage, etc. And that's what I love about stock analysis. Now, it doesn't have articles like Seeking Alpha does. Sometimes it does, not always, but sometimes you'll find articles on it. Some of them are actually links to Seeking Alpha. So you can scroll down, you'll see what I'm talking about. You'll see the links here, and a lot of the articles are Seeking Alpha. So if you don't have a subscription to Seeking Alpha, you won't be able to read the article, right? You just get a breakdown, a chapter, basically a paragraph on it, and that's about it. It'll sometimes have other links to other sites, so like Global Newswire is on here, and you could probably read that one more than likely. Just click on it. You could open it up and read whatever it has to say on ADX or any other holding that you're thinking about investing in. On the main thing, you can look at the overview. You can look at the financials on it, a breakdown of the quarter over quarter, or you could change it year over year, I believe, too, semi-annual, trailing 12 months. You can look at the income statement, balance sheet, cash flow, dividend history. You can pull up the dividend yield on it, when it pays, etc. The history all the way to basically inception. You can see what it did on dividends. If you keep scrolling down, you'll see if it has dividend growth. You'll see that. There was a change when it went into paying a higher sum on the quarters. There's been a change in ADX. Anyway, so if you scroll in this, you can look at history, you can look at profile. The profile is going to describe the fund and the fund manager. So if you go back to overview, a lot of times you'll find a link to the fund manager. Just scroll through. And not always. It doesn't look like it got a link here, but you can see, you go to Adams Funds, basically. There it is, adamfunds.com, and you can look up ADX that way too on the fund manager's webpage. That's what I like by stock analysis. I go look, and you can make a watch list on it too. Go to those little 3 slash marks. This is all the stuff you can do. I have multiple watch lists, and they're basically all dividend related, like S&P 500, dividend ETFs. No, everything you see on there is basically all dividends, And I built this watch list over time as I was doing another YouTube channel, and I built up a pretty large congregation of different stuff, so I could check the performance and I could cross-reference the performance of any fund against its counterpart fund from a different management group. Like I could reference ADX, T-SPY, SPY. This is all S&P 500 stuff, and I could see the change on price year to date. If I tap on year to date, it'll show which one's leading year to date. Same thing with 1 year. You could look at the 1 year performance, and this is just price action. I'm tapping on you. You can see the old time, and you could change any one of these. You could hit the edit button and change just for different time frames and different things you want to look at. I like going out at least a year on a fund to see how it's performed. And if the fund's older than that, I like to go beyond that. And most of these funds that have come out aren't that old. So this is why I knew I wanted to buy ADX, actually, because it's had a stellar return. The other thing I look at, because I'm into dividends, is I've got a couple of total return trackers. So I could type in ADX and I could compare ADX to anything I want. And in this case, I'm going to select SPY because that's the S&P 500 ETF, right? Type that in, add the comparison, and it'll bring it up. And you'll see the color coding on it. ADX is in red, SPY is in purple, and you can see the performance relative to its underlying index is closely related to. I use SPY always as the barometer of how well a fund's doing. I use it as the test of a fund, basically. And you'll see what it's done over the inception date of the fund itself. ADX is actually older than 1993, but the history of this only goes back to that point, I guess. In SPY, I'm not sure what it's doing on this. It's going by SPY's inception date, or because SPY, I don't think it was even around in 1993. I'm not really sure on that. Don't quote me on this, but you can see the annual returns for each year going back, the different correction periods, how far it pulled back. It's actually done really well holding up to SPY for a dividend fund that pays almost 8%. So anyway, so this particular total return thing is on a web page called totalrealreturns.com. There's another one you could use too. It's right next to it, and it is called dividendchannel.com. So you could type in the symbol on that. We could even use a different symbol if you guys want to see how that works out. Let's use SVOL, for example. This chart in 10K basically. And it's going to show you a chart with dividends reinvested and one without dividends reinvested. And so I could see what it's done. And then you can look at the start price, end price that's in the description to see what kind of NAV erosion something suffered over time. And so I try to avoid funds that have poor NAV stability. So if I see a massive downward spiral in the net asset value of a fund, then I'm kind of hesitant to really get involved in it unless it's like relative to an underlying that's at a support, maybe like single stock ETFs that are managed well, like Curve funds, for example. If the underlying is charting at a strong support and looks like it's going to go through a reversal, then I'll start trading off of that, despite the fact there might be NAV erosion in between that time where the underlying is selling off. Like currently, for example, Microsoft is selling off, so I use a proxy dividend ETF from Curve to trade Microsoft during its pullback, and I dollar cost average, and I'm going off the chart and I'm looking for a support on the chart for Microsoft for when I'm going to buy more shares of the single stock ETFs that pay dividends, like MISFI from Curve funds. Anyway, that's the different things I use. Mainly, I use Yahoo Finance occasionally to look at different things. Maybe I want to look at the dollar or gold or something like that, or silver. So I got watch lists set up for that, and I look at the bond market. I watch the 10-year a lot, and I could pull up news on Yahoo for free, and I don't have to pay for none of this. Then a lot of what I do, as far as information for earnings and stuff like that, actually will come off of Twitter. I have subscriptions to different guys that post earnings and stuff like that. And one of the good ones is this guy here, Earnings Time. He posts pretty much all the major players in earnings and upcoming earnings and the results, earning results. And this is all free information. Then if I want to look up a calendar, I got a calendar on investing.com. Investing.com has a lot of free capabilities to it that's really excellent if you want to look up economic data it's going to have the calendar for that, and the results that come out is going to post the results too. So on that, you just tap on calendar, take the ads off. You can see what happened today. The initial jobless claims came out. The consensus was 206 for initial jobless claims. The previous was 210. The actual was 209. So it was higher than expected. And then you can see what's going to go on tomorrow. PPI, producer price index relative to inflation stuff for producers. Chicago PMI coming out, and you can check for the week, or you can check next week too. And there's a way you could alter this and look up earnings too. So let's move this out of the way, tap on that, and you can pop up earnings, and you see earnings results on this also. And you can see what upcoming earnings are coming for tomorrow. But for the results, like I said, I use that Twitter account. Anyway, guys, that's a few of the tools I use, and I stick with things I know. You know what I mean? I've been trading the same pairs of stuff for years now and making money hand over fist on, like, Bitcoin proxies. And then I'm dividend focused, obviously, because I own a lot of this stuff in here. That's the better performing stuff. Like, I'm bullish on ADX. I'm bullish on GPIX. I'm bullish on SPY. I have some shares of T-SPY. I'm not playing with iSpy really at all, because I want to see price action too, and I want to see longevity. So when I pull up price action, I got to see positive price action, especially if we're in a bull run and the market's going up. If the market's pulling back, you can't expect that for the 1 year. If you're, like, for example, in a bear market like 2022, yeah, you're going to see a negative, right? But if you're in a bull cycle like we've been for the last couple of months, even though we're trading sideways lately and we had a down day, I want to see what we did relative to the last year, because I want to compare it to the S&P. And so, yeah, I look at the price action of these funds, and the funds that are negative, I don't want to touch them. If a fund's positive, I see it, I compare it relative to its competition, like T-SPY relative to SPY. It's underperforming on price action. Now, total return is going to be a totally different story, but I want at least a year. When I look up total return, I want to see a year of action. If a fund's new, I'm not really going to invest in it. I got to see how it's performing relative to its peers before I decide to take the leap on it. Now, you can look at T-SPY on a 1 year return. It's done really well. It's outpaced SPY just by a slim margin as a higher dividend yields. That's why it's still on my watch list, and it's made my top 3. GPIX follows up, and then iSpy is kind of lagging behind that. Anything below that, I don't want to touch. Like, for example, XDTE, despite having a total return, I look at the price action on XDTE. Let's go back to the 1 year, and it's down 20% on its price. Anything that's red when we've been in a bull run gives me a warning sign that it's not going to perform well, especially when we enter a correction period, because it's not performing well in the last year on price, despite the fact that we've been mostly up, except for April. We've been mostly up in the market. We've only had that one pullback and maybe an 8% afterwards, and XDTE does not recover its price. So I want to see that fund at least recover their price and show at least some upside, or the ability to recover to NAV, their net asset value. And that's so anyway. So by having these watch lists on stock analysis, I could make as many watch lists as I want. I could examine the 1 year price change. I could change these to longer time frames too. But a lot of these funds, these dividend funds, haven't been around too long. And as you can see, it's only 2 of them that have been around at least 3 years, and that's SPY and ADX. And you can see the kind of returns they're doing. All right, guys. Anyway, that's pretty much the type of tools I use. I don't chase too much in the way of news stories or anything on YouTube outside of just a handful of people. And because I'm dividend focused, the main people I watch are people that I respect, like Armchair Income and Dividend Bull. There are some others too, but those are the 2 main ones. They do a really good breakdown of the funds they invest in. So anyway, I pretty went long on this video, so I'm going to cut out now. take a look. I know there's only 1 or 2 viewers ever on this channel, but that's fine. Maybe this information will help somebody. That's all that matters to me. All right, guys, take care. Bye.